Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a live reaction and player ratings live stream following Astana 1, Chelsea 3, all the way in the east, nearly in China, close to, well, by the border of Kyrgyzstan, between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, in the former capital of Kazakhstan, Almaty. Yeah, it was cold, minus 11 degrees. It was a bit of a freezing evening. I think we can be damn sure about that. But Chelsea, as a point in the title, too cool for the cold. Yeah, professional performance. First half was pretty good. Got those 3 goals. Sure, conceded 1. And then second half, just kind of saw it out. Almaty, I say. That's where we played, not against who we played. Astana had a couple of chances. I forgot his name again now. What was it? Tomasov, was it? Who scored that absolute weldy first half. Nearly scored another one in the second half. But otherwise, yeah. I mean, it was a good afternoon. We didn't, or evening, here it was an afternoon. In all the way in Kazakhstan, it was certainly the evening. Some starts for academy players. Josh Acheampong finally playing for the first team again, which is great to see. Also had a good game, I thought. Tyreek George starting as well. Same for Raksaki in midfield. And then we had another 3 debuts off the bench as well, which is absolutely fantastic. We'll get into those as well. And even, what's his face, Harvey Vale returned. Obviously, it wasn't his debut because he played for the first team a number of occasions in the past. But he's back. He's back. And we tried to ship him out to Saudi Arabia in the summer. He said no. So now he's playing in a Conference League. There you go. So that's how it goes. And as you can tell, guys, we are today joined by a guest once again. Often I do these by myself, but I thought, who knows how many people are going to tune into this Astana game? Who knows how many people I'll have to talk to? So let me make sure I get someone to talk to. So that's why I've brought Bertram along. Thank you very much for tuning back in or turning back up, Bertram. No, he's not in prison. No, he's not in Kazakhstan. He's just in his basement, which is perfectly fine. So, Bertram, first of all, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. What did you make of that? It's one of those games where, honestly, even if we'd lost, I wouldn't have been particularly bothered. It's incredibly difficult to go to these kind of conditions so far away. But hey, at the end of the day, we keep our perfect record going in the Conference League, which is nice. 6 wins in a row now in all competitions, which is also very good. So, positives all round in total, would you say?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on as well. Hello to everyone in the chat as well. I think it's important to note that the only reason you've actually brought me on is because of my brilliant expertise in the Kazakhstani Super League. So very happy to finally have someone to talk about that too. But yeah, I'm very happy to get on. I think after the game as well, I think we all know about the difficult conditions down there as well. Minus 11 degrees, having to take pretty much a full academy team as well down there, and Pedro Neto and Dizazi, which I think they'll be thrilled about having to take that trip. But I think this is kind of a symbol for what we thought as Chelsea fans this Conference League campaign might be. A lot of debuts, a lot of these players. Raksaki, Acheampong, George from the start as well. Yeah, I know he's played a couple as well, but getting these young players just a chance to play, I think, is very important. And I think as well, just getting through the game, winning 3-1 in these difficult conditions, I think is very important. And I also think as well, the fact that they have to take this, very long flight, it kind of, I don't know how it felt for you or, you in the chat, but it kind of felt like, it's kind of like this game was kind of like a joke in a way, because it's so far away, you have to take this 11-hour flight, freezing conditions, we're pretty much through. I think all these academy guys as well. So I think at least for the players who played and the players who took down there, has been an experience. And maybe in a way it's kind of, I think there has to be some team bonding on that plane home tonight. I think this it might give something at least. I think a thought as well to the parents who've missed their children playing for Chelsea today, who are not who didn't want to take the long trip to Kazakhstan to watch their boys play. But I think all around, the fact that we got through the game, the fact that we won it, the fact the academy boys got to play, I think was very impressive, and some good performances as well, which I think we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. Shout out Ricky, by the way. Academy boys played well. I do agree. We'll get into more of that later on. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it's not just myself today, so I won't quite react to you guys in the chat as much as I do by myself, but I will still try to get you guys involved. So leave us your thoughts, leave us your statements, questions, whatever you can think of that you want to talk about. I thought my neighbors were making crazy noise, but it's just an airplane, which is also difficult. But anyway, another couple of things that I wanted to mention on that, because you said it's kind of like a bit of a joke game, and it is. Like, I think the time difference between London and, well, Almaty today is bigger than the difference between London and Rio de Janeiro. So that tells you kind of everything you need to know about the situation. Or maybe it's the same. There's 5-hour difference between London and Kazakhstan. I think the time difference between London and Brazil is also 5 hours. Might even be 4 hours. So yeah, that tells you everything you need to know, really. So yeah, it's a little bit crazy. I mean, I tweeted this today. Some people weren't particularly happy with me saying this, but I was like, Kazakhstan, a Kazakh team, playing in a European competition is nearly as stupid as Americans calling their National League champions world champions. That's kind of the level of stupid we're talking here. Like, why are they playing? I don't even understand. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, does it have political reasons? Is there dramatic political tensions between Kazakhstan and their surrounding countries? I don't know. I've got to be honest, I don't know. But yeah, it is a bit silly. But at the end of the day, we managed to get out of it without injuries, and we managed to get out of it without, dropping points. And also, what I want to say, as terrible as it is there, as terrible as the weather is, still a better pitch than they've got in America. So remember when Ruben got injured? Somehow in Almaty, they still managed to have a better football pitch than over there in the US. In the middle of
Kunku, to be fair.
Or in Kunku, although Kunku was less, I guess, caused by the pitch itself, I suppose.
But you could see it. Yeah. I do remember a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. JC says, who impressed the most among the academy boys? We'll get into those questions. I'll star it for myself to get back to it a little bit later. But yeah, in total, I'll bring up the lineup. Nothing really crazy, if we're being totally honest. This was the main lineup. Obviously, we didn't exactly play in the 4-3-3. We'll bring up my lineup sheet in a minute. But Jorgensen in goal, the kind of, him alongside Disasi and Tosin, I guess, the only real... Oh, and Pedro Neto, of course. How could I forget? And Vega. So there was a few first teamers in there. But who will make the bench on Sunday? Out of these lot, so Neto is suspended, so he won't. One of Disasi and Tosin, maybe. I'm not even sure about Vega, if I'm honest. So, yeah. It was certainly very much a changed-up team. But the one that I was most happy about was Josh Acheampong starting. Not only being back in the team, obviously we saw him training the day before the Heidenheim game, the last Conference League game, and people got a bit excited and everything. But then there was still, hold up. And yesterday we finally got the news by Maresca. Yeah, there's some. And then later in the day by Fabrizio Romano, yeah, there's been progress. The reason he was hesitant to sign was he didn't really see a pathway. Now, supposedly Chelsea have somehow shown him a pathway, which I don't really understand where we've pulled that out of, if I'm honest. But maybe it was just Reece James getting injured. Maybe that's what did it. So, a positive in that, at least. That would be nice. But yeah, I was very happy with him starting. Raksaki as well. Chukwuemeka making his first start since that injury against West Ham at the beginning of last season, which is a long time ago. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall still not looking great, even when we're playing Astana. And I'm playing. Tyreek George for the first time playing at left wing, which is good, or starting at left wing at least. Still didn't manage to quite put his stamp on the game as much as I maybe would have liked, because I see there's a real talent in him. But yeah, Marc Guiu, now officially he's been given the goal. I still think that looked more like an own goal to me, but hey, we'll take it. So Guiu with a brace, very happy. Obviously Renato Veiga from the corner with another goal. What made you the most happy, I guess, or did anything surprise you about the lineup that we went with today, bro?
No, I think, just Acheampong starting as well. I thought we heard yesterday with Maresca in the press conference that he would, which I'm very happy with. But, as you touched upon as well, the fact that the contract talks are moving along made me very happy, because I think, sometimes Chelsea, I think it's more calm around the club than it has been before. But this is one of the situations where, sometimes we do inexplicable things. And this is one of them. We have a huge talent in a position of need, and we just, can't get a contract over the line. And I think, the news yesterday, I could feel it myself. I was very, very happy to hear. I saw your tweet as well. And I thought today he played very well. I was happy to see Acheampong, George from the start as well. Raksaki, I think he went really, all in this, on the academy boys. I think starting 3, pure academy boys I was very happy with. I thought Neto, I didn't really want him playing on the pitch, as the Demon Nat said as well in chat. I think, playing him on that pitch and, getting through it, I was very happy with. I think Chukwuemeka, that being his first start since West Ham, kind of surprised me, to be fair, but happy to see him. I cannot fathom, this is another one, I cannot fathom how he's not, closer to the team. He's such a good player. And I think whenever I see him, he just looks like a good player. So the only saving grace is he was taken off after 67 minutes. So hopefully there's a role for him at some point. But I think all in out, I think the team, I think it made sense. I think the fact that he made the subs as well quite early, getting some of the the more experienced guys off, getting more academy guys in was I was happy to see. So I think, to be honest, very happy with the lineup. This is pretty much what I wanted to. I always want to see us, get a couple of goals and then begin to take the foot off the gas and people on. So all in all, quite happy. I think you're quite happy with the lineup as well, right?
Yeah, no, I sure was. I'm pretty happy with him. What we got to say, of course, if Kasarai didn't get himself sent off in the last second of the Heidenheim game, I'm very sure that he would have started most likely over Raksaki today, because Raksaki kind of played the base of almost the midfield three. We'll get into our lineup in a second, in the way we actually shaped up. So I assume, Kasarai most 100% would have started had he not gotten that suspension. The question is, who would he have played instead? I'm pretty sure Raksaki.
Sure, for Mecca, 100%. 100%.
You reckon? I mean, maybe.
I do, but I just don't think
I just plays as the 6 so far, innit? And obviously Carney plays much higher, so that's my only thinking. It's an interesting one that you pointed at Carney that way, because I thought, in particular, until he got subbed off in the second half, I actually was quite happy with him. I wasn't that happy with him in the first half, and I wasn't particularly happy with him whenever he's got a chance this season. But when I say that, I don't mean that necessarily I think he's now awful. It's just more of a shame that because he's getting so little minutes, because he's been injured before now getting so little minutes for so long, it's really difficult to get into any sort of rhythm and groove again when actually playing on the pitch. I felt that you could feel that, but I also felt that in the second half, you could tell that little click of, okay, I've got a few more minutes now, and it started to work a bit better, because there was some unnecessary misplaced passes, or I don't know, silly little flick flacks in the box where I'm like, bro, just play football, man. Like, you're so far away from the team. Don't be doing flick flacks. That's not what we're here to do today. So there you go. Ava says, George needs to be loaned. Too selfish. I mean, selfish, but then at the same time, these academy players, they know if they want to somehow make a little bit of a statement, a bit of a jump up in the kind of pecking order, they need to get a goal. We were 3-1 up. You know what it is? I know what you mean, Ava, maybe, but I also understand it. JC agreed that it was a bit of an own goal that second. Guiu won, and concerned is also very, very happy with Josh. Now, let me switch the screen to how, at least I personally, and the average positions, according to SofaScore, say that we kind of lined up more of a 3-3-4. Now, initially, I was like, isn't it more of a this one? But according to the average positions, it wasn't. So there you go. Average positions do usually trump what I think. So there you go. Let's just get into it. Bro. I mean, we'll look at some overall stats in a minute. We'll start with Jorgensen. He is your countryman. We've spoken about him many times with you. Obviously, I mean, he's born in Sweden, but plays for Denmark. So where do you stand on our goalkeeper situation? I know you weren't quite as critical of Robert Sanchez as I was, and as many of us elsewhere when I've last had you on the stream. Now, things have happened since. Jorgensen has played some couple of very good games since, against Southampton in the Premier League, against Heidenheim in the Conference League. Even today, I thought that save he made in the second half from that long shot was a pretty good save, because the ball was, moving in the air very unpredictably. Happy with him. Obviously, you speak on today, but more in general, do you think he's knocking on that door? Obviously, Sanchez again being a bit dodgy against Spurs. But what do you think Maresca does? Because so far Maresca has been very adamant that Sanchez is his number one. It hasn't looked at all like he might change that.
Yeah, I think since I was last on, a lot of stuff has happened. I think I'm now in the camp that I think Jorgensen should be starting. I think just whenever I was watching the Spurs game, for example, I was never secure whenever he had the ball, and it showed. He gave away a couple of balls. Played them to Badiashile when he didn't look secure. So I just think watching him, he doesn't make me feel safe, which is the number one job of the goalkeeper. I just also think that Jorgensen has impressed me. I think since I've been on last, we had the Heidenheim game where I thought he was very, very good. I think the Southampton game as well, he impressed me a lot with some of the saves he made. I also just think that it's very, very difficult to replace a goalkeeper, because whenever you look at, we've done it the past couple of seasons. We did it with Mendy and Kepa a couple of years in that terrible season 2 years ago, and it did end up working. We don't really like Kepa, but Kepa was better than Mendy at that point. I think last season as well. But I just think the thing about this, as you've said, Ricky, is just. I just don't think it's the same type of mistake. I think I could attribute this one to just.
Would you even call it a mistake? Because he did get his fist on it and cleared it. Now, he didn't clear it maybe where he intended to clear it, but he certainly cleared it out of danger. So I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't remotely call that a howler. I would say it maybe not 100% secure in coming out, but not a howler.
I wouldn't as well. And I just think if you look at the type, it's the first minute, it's very cold. You want to get started. I would put it down to that. And maybe it's me coping because I'm a Dane, but I also just
Yeah.
think it's very difficult to to switch, because now if you put Sanchez out and you say Jorgensen, you're my number one, it just transfers all this pressure to him. And some people will deal with it, some people won't. I think if you look at what happened last season, we were kind of forced into making this change because of Sanchez's injury. So even if Petrovic was going to make mistakes, he's our number one because our other number one is injured. So I just think, at least until summer, I do think we do need to switch goalkeeper because Sanchez is nowhere near good enough. And I think Jorgensen, is quite good, and I think this is kind of the mutual feeling from a lot of Chelsea fans. I think we saw today as well. He's quite cool on the ball. I just think until something happens, exactly, and just until something happens, when you're not going to transfer that much pressure onto Jorgensen, I think it's just going to have to be Sanchez, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a weird one because Sanchez is one yellow card away from a suspension in the Premier League, which will probably happen eventually. I doubt he will make it past January 1st without getting booked again. Or is it January 1st? It might be January 4th, the cutoff point. But the problem is then it's still only one game that Jorgensen will play, and then Sanchez probably comes back in, because what you say is valid. Now, number one, you completely destroy Sanchez and you make him an not useless, but very much a frail number two goalkeeper. We know what happened at Brighton once he was demoted from being first choice. We know that didn't go particularly well in terms of the relationship between him and the manager, De Zerbi, at the time. So, maybe Sanchez is a little bit touchy-feely about things like getting dropped and being made number two. I'm not sure. Obviously, after Jorgensen had that great game in Heidenheim, Sanchez posted after the game, a picture with him and like team. So I'm like, fair enough. And to be fair, that game against Villa was probably Sanchez's best game in the Chelsea shirt that he had 10 days ago now. But then he also played Spurs and was again. It's just so dodgy. And yeah, it's frustrating. As for Jorgensen today, I mean, I can look at some stats, but goalie stats in a game like this. He made 2 saves. We all remember one of them particularly. I don't really remember the other one, if I'm honest. 2 misplaced passes those were both long balls. So on the ground, 100% accuracy. Not much to say. I'd probably just give him like a, 6.5, 7, something like that. But where would you go?
I think that's fair as well. I give him a 6.5. I just think it's very difficult for goalkeepers when it's this cold and you have not a high level of challenges against you. Just keep going. So I think he did very well to just keep alert the whole game.
Yeah, I would love almost a goalkeeper cam for games like this, because they've got to be doing so much to stay warm in these games. Like, obviously, it's cold for everybody, but the outfield players, they're actually running around and moving. For the goalkeeper, my God, like how your fingers and toes aren't frozen, I will never understand. So,
very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you would know. Maybe not quite as cold as in Kazakhstan, but it does get cold in Denmark. So, yeah, there you go. I didn't want to spend too long, obviously, speak about the goalkeeper situation overall, but I think otherwise, other players to focus on more. And honestly, similar, it's going to be quite quick with Tosin and Disasi. I'm going to bring their stats up. Who did I pick first now? Tosin. All right, let's do Tosin first. Not much to it, but let me show you the stats. 95% passing accuracy, misplaced does 4 passes. It's pretty good, I guess. And 5 accurate long balls out of 5, which is pretty good. 2 out of 2 tackles, sure. 2 out of 4 ground duels, 4 out of 4 air duels. He was very good, of course. Very solid. It's just a question of, especially for defenders, it's like, what rating do you give them when you play a team that's clearly so far inferior? Another thing we have to say, by the way, the Kazakh League finished on the 10th of November. Since the 10th of November, Astana has only played 3 games, those 3 games all being in the Conference League. So, I mean, in a way, they should have been fresher than us, I guess, but certainly not as match fit. So at the same time, is Chukwuemeka match fit? Probably not. So there you go. I guess maybe it evens itself out a little bit there. I mean, I think this is a bit of a good game where less fully focus on the game with certain individuals, and we can use it as a conversation about them as players. Obviously, speak on Tosin tonight, but what have you made of Tosin overall as a player? Because I still can't get over the fact that he's our Thiago Silva replacement.
I thought, in a way, he might be better. He was better than he maybe was, but that just may come down to the fact that
you mean today or across the season? So?
I think in general he hasn't really impressed me. I thought his defending for the Southampton goal a couple weeks back didn't really speak to me that much. I would have maybe hoped he was something else. I think, today pretty much I'm going to give the defenders, the same rating. I think maybe he was a bit sloppy for the goal, and backing off. But, in general, I think Tosin, for the time he's been here, has been a bit underwhelming. I think we don't see what happens behind the scenes. I think he's shown himself as a leader in some of the clips we've seen. So we don't know if that probably gives us something. But I suppose this is kind of what he's been brought into, playing these games. So Colwell or Fofana, if he was fit, didn't have to travel for this. And I thought he was fine, I think for this level. And, I think, just generally when we get further along at the Conference League, I think that's pretty much his level, which is fine, for this season. I think for the game today, I'd probably give him a 6. I think I can't really remember if he was the one or if it was Disasi who was.
It was actually Vega who was closest to the guy that shot.
It was Vega. Okay, fair enough. But I'd probably just give him a 6. I think for Tosin, we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but from what I've seen, I think as well just kind of a meaty player, to be honest. But he could live into it. I think now we seen with Fofana's injury. In a way, I would maybe think that he was the one to step in on the right-hand side of defense if it wasn't Gusto. And I think if he got a run of games, maybe he would be able to do something. But yeah, I think for today as well, just give him a 6.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking a 6.5 because I thought he was better than Disasi, and I still don't think Disasi deserves below a 6. So that's why I'm like, give Tosin a 6.5, Disasi a 6. I mean, we'll look at Disasi's stats in a second, whether I still think that. We'll leave it as a 6 for now. As for Tosin overall, yeah, I completely agree. I think that says a lot about what Maresca thinks about him, that when Fofana got injured and Reece James is unavailable, that it was Badiashile who got picked to play right centre-back initially with it on his wrong side. Also the person that started in that position against Spurs. Now we learned it didn't work, but still, Tosin is not even in the consideration. Tosin is just our backup central centre-back. And I'm like, honestly, like you said, for this season, this is fine. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's actually sold again in the summer for profit, because obviously he joined as a free agent. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually try to sell him again in the summer. What you mentioned about leadership seems to be very much a factor within him or for him, because Maresca on a number of occasions this season, a few months ago when he slightly questioned Reece James's leadership or captain's duties, I suppose, he mentioned Tosin as one of the guys that has leadership qualities. Now, he's obviously older than the majority of the squad. He's 27, which is another thing why I'm a little bit disappointed. If he played the way he is and he was 22, I think that would be like, okay, he could become pretty good. But he's already 27. This is close to, if not Tosin's peak. He's not going to get much better than this from being 27 now. And that's why I just think it's a little bit disappointing, especially when you know that last season we sure played a high line, and maybe sometimes that was a bit of an issue with Thiago Silva. And actually this season we stopped playing a high line, so Thiago Silva being in the team still would have been absolutely perfectly fine. Now, sure, he wanted to go home to his club Flamengo. No, not Flamengo. That's the other one. Fluminense. Yeah, that's the one. And he saved them from relegation. So, he did his job, and maybe they would have got relegated without him. So fair dues. But yeah, Tosin is a bit of a... Yeah, I'm not particularly sold, let's be honest. Let me look at Disasi's rating, so whether I want to make a case for myself again with the 6.5 and 6s for them too. Let me bring it up. Passing accuracy, very similar. 91 out of 95 passes. Can't complain with that. 2 out of 3 long balls, okay, compared to 5 out of 5. It's not much in it. No tackles. Not sure why. Okay, the duels look bad. Now, obviously, it's always like he was only in one duel. Does some of that come from the fact that, he wasn't challenged much? But then I'm like, whenever Astana were dangerous, it happened from their right wing, which was Disasi's defensive side. So the fact that he was in no duels, for me, is a question mark. So maybe I'll actually be okay with sticking to the 6 for Tosin and just giving Disasi a 5.5 or even a 5. But what would you give Disasi, especially seeing those stats? What do you make of when you see stats like this? When a centre-back plays for 90 minutes and has 0 duels, while his centre-back partner had... I clicked the wrong person. That's brilliant. Had 6 duels. How can that happen? Like, well, no, actually 7, 1/6 of them. Like, I find that strange, no?
I do, but I also kind of noticed throughout the game that I think the Astana players as well, they just kind of backed off. I think it might have been something with the surface because, when it was that fast, I think it might be quicker to, move the ball. It's something I did notice as well. I think sometimes you might put it down to the pitch as well. I think Disasi's performance for me mirrored Tosin's pretty much. I thought, as Ava said, they're pretty solid today. I think as well it's difficult when you're playing a team you're that much better than, to be honest. I think as well the way I kind of saw it is a lot of the Astana players were, trying to shoot from distance, and they didn't really want to go into duels with Disasi and Tosin, which I understand. They're big guys. I don't think the way they attacked kind of, gave Disasi that much time to go into duels. So to be fair, I think him and Tosin were pretty equal today. I'd give them both sixes.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not going to moan about it and argue about that too much. Let's give them both the 6. Perfectly fine. You read out Ava's comment to an extent already. They said, thought Disasi and Tosin were pretty solid today, although Tosin, like by the shield, has got a mistake in him here and there. I think that also applies to Disasi to an extent. Obviously, Disasi has played more for the club than both of them. By the shield, partly due to injuries. And Tosin obviously hasn't been here for that long. Yeah, Disasi obviously was more out of position for himself today, playing left side of centre back. It's a bit like Badiashile playing right side of centre back. But like I touched on after the Spurs game, like many people have spoken about in recent days, is left-footed players are a lot less used to playing on the right than right-footed players are used to playing on the left, purely because percentage-wise, there's just so many more right-footed footballers from any level, whether you're talking under-8s, whether you're talking semi-professional, whether you're talking amateur football, all the way to pro football. There's just a lot more right-footed humans, right? So therefore, they're going to be more used to having to play on their wrong side, I guess. But I guess I'll give Disasi that ever so slight benefit of the doubt, which was why I'm happy with giving them the same rating. We can move on to Josh Acheampong, who I was very happy with today. There was this pass that he played in the first half. I can't remember who he passed it to. I think to Neto, when Neto forced a pretty decent save from the goalkeeper quite early in the game. Then he also had this little run through the midfield or through the defense and got a shot off himself and kind of nearly could have scored, which would have been nice. You could see it there. In the end, he got blocked, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I thought it was a good performance. We talked about it earlier, why we're happy that, he's within the team now again, which is, great news, especially with Fofana's injury. I think having Acheampong, I'm not saying he should start in the Prem. I still think that should be Gusto, maybe Disasi, whatever we figure out while Fofana is out. But having Acheampong on the bench to, when we say are 2 or 3-0 up towards the end of the game, and we can bring him in and get him sped up to these kind of level of games. That doesn't mean that I don't think he should go on loan next season. I do think that. But I think we could also this season already, accelerate his development a little bit by, if he is the guy on the bench and we are a bit comfortable, you take off whoever the slightly out of position right centre-back is, you bring him on and you go with that. Yeah, I thought he had a good game. 94% passing accuracy, similar to the other boys. 2 successful dribbles, which is pretty good for us. Kind of right back playing centre back in possession. 4 out of 6 long balls, very impressive. 2 out of 4 tackles, again, pretty good. Look at the duels now. Obviously, he was playing wide, but Disasi was kind of playing wide. So, still in total, 6 duels, 1 out of 9. I think that's pretty good going for the most part. Again, he's 18. These are not not easy conditions to play in, absolutely. So, yeah, I was happy with him. I'd give probably Josh, I'd probably give him a 7, I mean, you could probably argue 7.5, 6.5, something in that realm. But I think a 7. I do think he stood out more than the other 2.
I think so too. I think it might just be because I do love him as a player and his profile. But I just think when you watch the game, you noticed him quite a bit more. I think he was, in a way, he looked like he did look, for me at least, the most mature of the academy boys. I think he slotted right in. I think if you kind of blurred each player, you wouldn't really notice which of them was the academy graduate and which of them was which of the other 2 were the experienced ones. I think you touched upon the through ball for Neto as well in the first half, which I thought was a very, very good through ball. I just think he looks very assured, and I think right now if you had one of these guys who started the game who would have to play a Premier League game, I think Acheampong would be fine. He might not be completely up for it yet, which is fair enough, but I think he looked very well today, or he played well, sorry. And I'd give him a 7 as well. I thought he played very, very well, very assured at least, and very, very happy to hear the fact that the contract talks are moving forward at least.
Absolutely. Just to highlight it again, that question from JC earlier. Now, obviously, we'll talk about Raksaki and George and the guys that came off the bench, but because for me, at least, it is quite clearly today, Josh Acheampong, I will highlight it now. Would you go along with that he was the one that impressed most from the academy boys? I'll be honest, Raksaki, I don't want to say I didn't notice him. That would be wrong. I did notice him, but I didn't see anything particularly like stand out. There was one moment where he nicely evaded some pressure, which is good. But by this, I'm not trying to discredit him by any means. it just was less able to, for me at least, to impose himself on the game than Acheampong was, which is partly why I agree with what you just said, that he feels most ready for senior football. You could, to be honest, I think Tyreek George looks perfectly comfortable playing adult football and has done whenever he has played. He's just been a bit unfortunate. He's not really been able to, well, make it count, because he's had big chances. He's missed sitters. He's missed big chances. He's finally got his chance on the left. Someone said it earlier that, Ava said it earlier, a bit selfish. So yeah, there's still a little something where I see the talent, but he's not really able to put it on the pitch fully yet. Tyreek George. So, oh yeah, sorry, I unhighlighted the message. So again, to go back to JC's question, it was Acheampong for me. Would you go along with that? I mean, obviously we'll rate Raksaki and George as well in a minute, but obviously speak on them in comparison if you want.
I think for me, they'll did pretty well. I disagree with you, but I think Raksaki was for me the most impressive actually.
Okay.
I had good old Jesper Grønka on the screen. He was the commentator for the game as well, and he loved Raksaki's performance. I just think he looked. You could see the difference between Acheampong, Raksaki, and George, because George, offensively, of course, it's his job to create, and he wanted it. He really wanted to, and kept doing, trying things, which we can also respect. I just think Raksaki, he did his job. He looked assured. I think not noticing him is in a way a compliment, because he kind of just went in, played the ball. He didn't make any mistakes. He won. He made one. He lost the ball, but won it back very quickly as well. I thought he impressed me a lot. I think of the academy boys that we know, I think George and Acheampong are the ones who we know the most, we've seen the most. And I think Raksaki really, really impressed me today in the middle of the park. I thought he did very well. I think in a new position as well, with Dewsbury-Hall kind of pushing up and Vega up beside him. I think of the academy boys who impressed me the most, I think Acheampong and Raksaki probably equally impressed me. I think George just showed us more of what he can do, and that's not to say that he's a worse player by any means, but we've already seen what he can and what he can do. But I think Acheampong was very good, to go back to JC's comment.
Fair dues. I'm just trying to see how tall Raksaki is supposed to be. Obviously, with these players that are still in their teens, it's always difficult because there's obviously still growth happening at that age. So whatever numbers you see, they were like, God knows when that was measured, right? So you can never be too sure. I remember, who was it? We had this, was it for Broja when he was younger? I can't remember. There was one player we had in the squad that everywhere online you looked, it said he was like 175 centimeters tall, like 5'10", 5'9". And you looked at him in real life, and he was like taller than, I can't remember who taller than Bridigo or whatever. Like, he was massive. So yeah, sometimes these numbers are not necessarily right. Honestly, the way he plays, he doesn't necessarily look like a defensive midfielder to me, but supposedly that is his main position. So fair dues. I mean, we can look at his stats. He might, to be honest, be the next player to mention in our lineup as we go through it for the player ratings anyway. So it would be a good moment to talk about him as well. Okay, Hello? Why am I not getting match? Why does he not have a rating? All right, I'll bring up SofaScore so we can actually look at what he did. Why is there no rating and stats? That's weird. Bloody Spotmob was like, nah, this is enough. We don't need to show you this one player.
Fine, yeah.
So conference league. Bit strange that. So let me just find it. Give me a second. Once we get there, Raksaki, they've lined it up very interestingly as well. Let me show you this screen, guys. Switch it to SofaScore. People know I usually back FotMob. Wish they would sponsor me, but I usually back them as the best football app. But what is happening with the Zoom, man? Hello. It's all ruined. Everything's gone to shit. What is happening? Why are you zoomed in like this? I'll stop showing you this screen until I can unzoom it, because bloody hell, what is going on? Hello? Why is it doing this? I don't understand at all. Bloody hell. So, got this back to halfway normal. So, it's unfortunate that I can't give a full, highlight of just the game on SofaScore. It kind of splits the screen up a little bit. But hey, here we go. It kind of put it as a 3-3-1-3, which I guess if you want, you can call it that formation as well. But yeah, we open Raksaki. Hopefully it gives us some stats, as it should. Passing accuracy, very strong. Only one misplaced pass. Can't complain with that, can you? Okay, dribble attempt 0 out of 1. ground duels, 4 out of 9. It's not amazing, but not bad. You know, I'm not going to complain about it. Possession lost 3 times is not bad. 1-2 fouls. Yeah, I mean, what can I say?
For a debut as well. For a debut, minus 11 degrees temperature, I think he did quite well.
Yeah.
And
I think just his first start, he played before, didn't he? That's why he came on earlier this season. Was it against Noah, maybe?
I think probably. It would probably.
Oh, Barrow, potentially? I can't remember, but he definitely played before. But it was certainly his first start. No, you're right, to be fair. Especially only misplacing 1 pass, especially as an out-and-out defensive midfielder. Honestly, I thought his position was a little bit more offensive than he was played as tonight. So that's why I expected a bit more than simple, keeping it simple passes. But, you know, if that's his position, I guess that's fair enough. What rating would you give Raksaki today, bro?
To be fair, I think a 6.5 is all right. I think he came in, he impressed me.
Yeah, if he impressed you more than Josh, or at least the same, you could give him a 7 too. I don't mind.
But it's weird because I would stand by that. I think Josh, in a way, maybe had more. You know, I think Josh played better in a way. But I think Raksaki kind of just did his job as well. By not noticing. That made so much sense in my head. I don't know if it makes as much sense here, but just the fact that he kind of did his job, and I think the job he did today warranted the 6.5. It just surprised me how well he was able to do it by the fact that this is, you know, his first start in the, you know, position he's playing. I think, as you touched upon as well, I kind of thought of him as a more offensive midfielder, but he had more of a defensive starting position today. And I think he's, you know, solved the role.
Yeah, I just looked on at least transfer market. They claim that defensive midfield is actually his main position. So yeah.
Okay, but maybe it's just, you know, his size, overall size that makes us.
No, exactly. He looks small. He looks like more of an offensive tactical midfielder than he does like a defensive one, doesn't he?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I mean, I see what you mean. Obviously, he is actually a bit older than Acheampong, but I think in terms of development, he isn't as far. There's also, like, in terms of talent, people that know the youth football a bit better. Like, obviously, Keanu Dyer, who later on came on to make his debut to replace Raksaki, is, in terms of talent, certainly seen ahead of Raksaki. But I guess with age, and yeah, first start, I think he did a good job. I'm happy with giving him a 6.5. We move on. Obviously, we did kind of one of the midfielders already now, but to kind of go back into our inverting midfielder, or inverting left back, then inverts into midfield. Renato Veiga got himself a goal today. Frankly, should have had another one when he kind of got a ball at the far post that he slightly misjudged and kind of weirdly lofted over the body. He just misjudged the cross, if I'm honest. But yeah, obviously one of the more senior players that played today. I thought he had a good game. I thought he, you know, was quite dominant. It's, again, like I said for the other guys, this level of opposition, it's always very difficult to, like, what do I really say about this? Like, sure, he was good today, but does that mean he's now amazing? No, it doesn't, because we played Astana. But he did good. FOTMob gave him the highest rating of the day as well. Obviously, it helps being a defender that gets a goal that usually pushes you up. But still, I mean, the passing accuracy isn't as good as the other boys around him. Not as good as Raksaki, not as good as any of the defenders. But I still think he did a decent job, obviously. He was trying to go forward, was trying to, you know, you could see he had many shots, getting himself involved in and around the box. Tried to dribble, unfortunately unsuccessfully. 4 out of 7 long balls. I'm all right with that as well. Duels, okay, 0 out of 3 ground duels, not that impressive. But 3 out of 3 aerial duels, I guess, is back to being all right. Is, again, I just like to look at the stats just so we have an idea what they are. But we all know, especially in games like this, you can't, like, there's more to football than just these stats. But at the end of the day, he scored a goal, played a good game. Also, it's on my thumbnail, he celebrated like this. Now, we were questioning in our group chat, why was he celebrating like this? Because Manchester United 5 years ago lost 2-1 in Astana. And when Vega scored, it wasn't like he made it 2-1. He scored the 3-0. So why would he have celebrated like this? Is it the number 21? Is that Chilwell's number? Is he best friends with Chilwell? Is that what he did? Like, RIP Chilwell for not even being here or something? Obviously, he wasn't registered in a Conference League squad. That's why he couldn't be here now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to take it as if he mocked Man United. So that gives him at least 0.5 extra in his rating.
At least, yeah.
What did you make of Vega? What rating would you give him if you want to include the mocking United as well?
I think the mocking United, I think we'll push it up to a 10. I've just seen it as well. And I think in my, you know, aspect, it's very difficult to judge players on the game today. I think just the fact that he went in, you know, played professionally. I think the goal as well pushes him up. I'd probably give him a 7.5.
Yeah.
I think he at least looks dangerous. He got the goal, as you touched upon as well. He was dangerous in other positions as well, or other situations where he probably should have scored. But realistically, I think he did his job. I think he looked assured. He looked a unit as well. Did his job, got a goal. I think that's pretty fair enough. 7.5 as the highest rating we have, for now at least. I think is fair enough.
Yeah, and I think there's only really one that has a chance to go higher, if I'm honest. I mean, FotMob gave him the highest rating from their perspective tonight. Just to quickly stick with Vega, what do you think of Vega as a player? Because obviously he's this, well, the way he looks, no one can tell me that he doesn't look like a ball-playing centre-back. That's what he looks like to me. Now, he supposedly played most of his career at left-back. Excuse me. But also, obviously, inverted into midfield for us. Has also played as a DM for Augsburg and for Basel before we signed him. What do you think? Now, when he first started to play for us and he was in midfield, I was like, ooh, no, I don't think he's a midfielder. And a game like today, the way actually, maybe we should drop him down to a 7 because he was the guy that let Tomasov shoot.
Oh, that is correct. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Maybe we'll take it down back to a 7 because that obviously he was good otherwise, but in that moment the defending could be a bit better. But yeah, what would you make of Vega positionally? Where do you see him?
I think I don't think he's good enough on the ball to be a midfielder in some games. I think for the role he has of coming in, like if he was a defender or probably a defensive midfielder in games like this, I think it's fair enough. Just to add some physicality. I think the role he came on with, like in Bournemouth, was fair enough for that game. I think him as a player, I'm not secure on him like having the ball, like being pressed and stuff like this. But I think for the game today was fine. As a player, he probably could add a couple of things. I think you touched upon the fact that he looks like a ball playing center back. I think he looks like a linebacker, to be honest, almost.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
Exactly. I think if he were to get better on the ball, I would trust him in higher end Premier League games. But I think for games like this, you could play him further forward. But in general, I see him as a defender as well, and a fair good one at that. Coming on with maybe 15 minutes to go, with adding some physicality. But he just looks like a smart bit of business for what we ended up paying, 15 million for him.
Yeah, I think 14 million euros it was. So like barely over 10 million pounds. So for that, an absolute steal. Only 21 years old. I mean, because his father was a player or manager or whatever, he probably doesn't have fake documents, but he looks like one of these players. They're like, you look so much older than you are. Are we sure about your birthday? But yeah, because he just looks so much older than 21. Like he looks older than Toasted. Toasted is 27. But yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
Ricardo, first of all, shout out you. Ahoy, friends. Evening, everyone. What an awesome evening in Namibia. Good game and good performance. Vega, just awesome to me. He's the next Desai. I mean, that is big praise. The next Desai. Desai are
very big praise.
Big boots to fill. I mean, Renato Veiga does have big shoes, I'm sure, or big feet, I'm sure. But yeah. I'm not quite sure if I'll go along with the next SAE, but yeah, the weird thing for me is the way we play. Obviously, we have two fullbacks, one of them inverted in midfield, one of them kind of becomes the wide centre back. And I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with what Maresca does, but I'm more like, it just surprises me that Vega looks so clearly, sure, start him left back, make him left back in out of possession, but it looks so much more logical to me that you would then invert him as the left centre back and let whoever the right side is invert into midfield. Now, sure, Josh Acheampong maybe not as comfortable doing that, not as used to it. Obviously, hasn't played with Maresca very much and trained with Maresca that much because obviously the contract disputes. So maybe on today's basis, that's fine. But Vega is pretty much every time he's played left back inverting into midfield, which, yeah, I think is interesting. But Ricardo says, give Vega a break. He's a beast in the making. We're not giving him a break at all. We're actually praising him. We're just saying he's maybe not a midfielder. That's all we're saying. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I love his passion. I love his gratitude. That interview that he gave quite early on at being at Chelsea is like, I'm just grateful to be able to put on the Chelsea shirt every day, and that's what you want to hear from your players as a fan. So yeah, big up Renato Veiga. Got himself a goal. I love how he pops up with goals. I love that. Whether he's inverting in midfield or playing left back, whatever his position is, my guy loves to get himself involved on the score sheet. So that's always good. As much as it was terrible defending from their whole team defending that corner, but hey, there you go. We'll take it. We'll take it. And we move on to Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Now, he did get himself an assist for said Vega goal with a well-delivered corner, to be fair. Otherwise, I thought, how honest do I have to be? And I honestly, sometimes I have to question my own sanity in terms of, I like being objective. I don't like being the guy with agendas. I don't want to be. Sometimes everybody is a bit subconsciously, naturally. And I feel that's me sometimes with Dewsbury-Hall. But watching this game today, I'm like, he's not even good enough to play Astana. That's what I'm not saying that was the whole game, but there was moments where I felt that he's running through on goal. We're 3-1 up, just doesn't shoot. I'm like, what? You're supposed to be an attacking midfielder, man. Shoot, man. What is this? And then like he tries to like do a little flick in the first half. Accident, or I think at the end of the first half, kind of stumbles over the ball. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I still cannot believe that we signed him for 30 million. And again, what I want to highlight, similar as with Tosin, this is what I don't understand so much about some of our signings this summer. We finally do sign a couple of players who aren't 12, and then they're so average. Like Tosin's 27, Dewsbury-Hall is 26. If Dewsbury-Hall played like he did today, again, same point that I made for Tosin, and he's 21, 22, no problem. That's fine. He's an okay, decent player who can become a good Premier League player. But because he's 26, again, we're nearing prime here. And he looks like worse than most other players on our team when we play teams like Astana or Barrow or God knows who else we've played against where he wasn't great. I don't know, man. I mean, Bertram is ever the optimist usually, so you can probably find more positive words here. But again, we paid 30 million and we sold our captain of last season for barely more now. I know with amortization, obviously Dewsbury-Hall with his 6-7 year contract, 2 million divided by that is not particularly a lot on the yearly books, while obviously the sale of Gallagher was the 40-odd million on, all in one. But still, similar price for those two players. I just cannot believe how bad that business is. But there you go. I mean, 2 out of 3 dribbles isn't bad. 1 out of 4 crosses. I'm never too critical of crosses. 2 out of 4 long balls, not too bad. The duels, okay. 2 out of 5 should be a bit better, but it's not terrible. What do you think about Dewsbury? I mean, Crispy says, disagree, Laurenz. These games are the exact reason we bought KDH. Nothing spectacular, but knows the system. But he doesn't even know the system. He doesn't even do any better in the system than anybody else has. Like, he doesn't. I don't know, man. It's just, what do you mean the exact we bought a player for 30 million to play Conference League against Astana? Is this what you're saying? As if we didn't have 15 of those players in the academy. You didn't have to sign anybody for 30 million. By the way, I still firmly stand by my conspiracy theory that the only reason we signed Dewsbury-Hall is because to get Maresca out of Leicester, we made some sort of deal. Okay, they'll give us Maresca, but we have to buy a player. That's what I think happened. That's the only reason I can imagine us ever signing this man. Again, if he was 21, no problem. But he's 26. He's too old to be this average. He really is too old to be this average. Do you agree with Crispy? Do you agree with me? Do you stand somewhere in the middle? Where do you think, or where do you stand on Dewsbury-Hall, man?
I think I agree with Crispy, to be honest. I think you can't look at the game today and say, why did we spend 30 million on a guy to play Astana? But he plays pretty much every Conference League game. I think a player, the whole discourse about, him replacing Gallagher, I think, Conor Gallagher would...
You know how you say he plays every Conference League game? He does. But not because he deserves to.
No, but that might count as... I also just think, Conor, if we had Conor Gallagher right now, right, he would not have broken into our Premier League team. He just wouldn't. And having that type of player, who could fetch that fee, which is good for academy players, just sitting on the bench just isn't worth it. I think Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is just...
Liverpool, Gallagher would have started on the Maresca.
Maybe, but I think the players we have now, when we have Enzo, Lavia, and Caicedo fit, I think they're doing a hell of a job and playing really well.
I agree with that 1,000,000%. And if we sell Gallagher, I mean, in hindsight speaking, obviously it would have been better had we got Omorodion or John Duran instead, purely because João Felix and Nkunku kind of get in each other's way. João Felix being here has made Nkunku a backup striker. We all have realized he's not really a striker. So that's why this has kind of gone a bit bad for poor old Nkunku as well, the way this whole Gallagher selling scenario has gone. But the whole pure profit, was Gallagher needed? Did you get too much money for a player that wouldn't be used that much? That's all valid. But I think that whole argument is invalidated by the fact that the backup or the player that was signed indirectly instead cost nearly as much. Because I'm like, that invalidates the whole concept that selling Gallagher, he was just worth too much to play this little. This is fine if you then either use an academy player instead or you buy like a Renato Veiga for 14 million, like in that position. Fine. But 30 million for... I don't know, man. I love that you're more positive.
Sure, but as well, I think... He probably it this is very, very wishful thinking. I do see this, but we don't know what kind of value he's played to coming in. I think Maresca, for example, said that he's we're further along than he thought we would be. Maybe Dewsbury-Hall just had some effect on it. We don't know this. I also think with a lot of these Conference League games, a player like Dewsbury-Hall, who just does not play at all, he doesn't play when we have these Premier League games. I think it's also difficult to come into a rhythm, and I think the team in general, a lot of these players, they don't play that often, so they need to get into a rhythm. So I think if you right now put him in, gave him a run of games for the first team, I think he'd be much, much better. As would be for any of these players. The team might be worse, sure, and he's probably not at the level of an Enzo, but I think just getting a run of games and a settled team will just make them better. So I don't think this level we're seeing right now.
Everyone that plays in a Conference League squad, though.
Of course it does. I think it does as well. I just think the level we're seeing right now of Dewsbury-Hall is not his actual level. I think the level we've seen is not the level of a 30 million pound midfielder. I think if we played him more, sure, that might he might be better. I just think it's very difficult to judge him on that. But that could still mean it's a stupid transfer.
And that's why I think it's a bad investment, because if you're gonna not I think your point has some validity. I think it's a little bit of giving him excuses, if I'm being totally honest. But also,
probably, yeah,
because he's 26, this whole point doesn't stand. You're 26, you have had 3 years of Premier League experience. You shouldn't have these struggles. You shouldn't. You're 26. You're older than all the 4 players in the squad. Yeah, but Tosin is also bad. But at least he was free
as well.
We signed him for free, not 30 million. Different.
I know, but probably, as you said, it might have something to do with the Leicester game. But we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, Crispy says English tax, he'll play in that position all the way to the Conference League final, allows our 18 midfielders a break while still upholding the system. This is valid, but I see Carney Chukwuemeka being a far superior footballer, and because we signed Dewsbury-Hall, Chukwuemeka isn't getting minutes. So this, to me, makes it an even worse signing. And he's also English, by the way, at Crispy. Chukwuemeka is also English. And could also, unlike Dewsbury-Hall, Chukwuemeka is actually young, so could still improve, could still go up in value, but instead we're losing value dramatically on Chukwuemeka. Signed him for 20 million 2 years ago, and since then I've given him about 3 games because he's been injured and now not used. Why? Because we decided to spend 30 million on Dewsbury-Hall. I just don't get it. Imagine all of these games that Dewsbury-Hall has played so far this season. Imagine all of them Carney could have played instead. Imagine. Carney would be so much closer to the first team if he got all these minutes. And also, again, he's 5 years younger. But hey, I think we've spent enough time of me hating on Dewsbury-Hall. I'm sorry, Kiernan. It's not to do with you personally. It's more with that I just don't see the point why you're here and you cost way too much money. That's more my issue. But hey, here we are. As for rating today, what would you give him?
6.5, to be honest. I think he got the assist. I think that puts him 0.5 up. I just think he did a job as well, to be honest with you.
I'll give the guys a poll, because I don't want to say I want to give him a 5.5, so we goes down to a 6. I want to be fair. So guys, I'm going to give you a poll. So please vote in it once it's there. It will be there in a second. Rating out of 10. And I'll let you choose between a 6 and a 6.5. If you go with 6.5, fine. I would go for a 6, but obviously, as it's just 2 of us, if we're split in the middle, it's a bit of a tough one. So I'll put it up as a slash for now. Please place your votes in the poll in the live chat. Should be under me, under us. If you're on your phone, should be next to us over there. If you're on desktop, so please place your vote. That would be nice. And we move on to in the average positions, Carney was more almost a second striker, but he was more of a number 10, really, wasn't he? So let me get to him. We touched on him earlier already. What did you make of Carney today? And you said you could always see already this season. So do you disagree with when I said that I thought he's, purely by how good he's looked previously, I thought he's looked a bit not as good as he was before. But again, this is not criticism. This is more just what a shame his situation is of that serious injury after West Ham. I still think if that injury doesn't happen, he is 100% a player that gets serious minutes now. Because he would have developed to an extent where Maresca would have happily used him, I think. But because he was injured instead, and then we signed Dewsbury-Hall instead, he's kind of in this position where he will most likely go out on loan in January, maybe be sold, depending on offers. But yeah, what did you make of Carney today? And yeah, what do you think happens with him? Do you see any hope for him to stay here at all?
I think this is like one of the most stupid things at the club right now because I think he has such a huge amount of talent, and I think we can all see it. You see it, I see it. A lot of people in our group chat as well, they see it. I think as well after that West Ham game, it's just the start of that season was just so terrible because he scored that great goal. The game was going well. He gets injured. Enzo missed a pen, and just everything derails from there. I think with Carney, just today, I think a lot of the same points that I had for the other players will go as well. Just him not getting a run of the team, him having to play with a lot of these players who aren't in form as well, kind of shows in his performance. I really, really do hope he gets a run in the team. I think there's potential there. I just think when you watch him, you can see there's a player there. What I think happens to him, I hope he goes on loan. I hope he, destroys it, to be honest, and I hope he gets a run in the first team as well because realistically, I think he should be getting the minutes Dewsbury-Hall does, and I'm quite sad that he gets to play today. Gets taken off 30 minutes to go, and
again, why did he have to get taken off? Is it just because he doesn't have enough minutes to play more? But doesn't that apply to Acheampong, Raksaki, and all of these guys all the same? Why was he the first one subbed off outside of Neto? I don't get it. It's weird.
And I really don't get it. And I think, it must be something behind the scenes at this point. I hope he goes on loan, and I hope he gets to show his true quality because I think there's a player there. And I think we all saw it last season as well. Maybe Maresca is still bitter after that last-minute goal against Leicester. Who knows? But
maybe
realistically,
maybe
probably he gets sold, and probably we're going to look stupid for it. And maybe there's just not a place in the team for him, and that's just very, 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 very sad at the end of the day. But I think there's a player there, and I hope he gets to play a lot of these Conference League games as we move forward. And hopefully, maybe he got taken out today because he was going to be a sub for Brentford. Probably not, but a man can hope. So
yeah,
I think for the game today, I think for the game today, probably give him a 6. I think it was pretty average. I think there's a thing. He looks good, but played quite average.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like, I'm not sure where you watched the game. I watched it via TNT Sports, and their commentary, there was a woman commentating. I'm not sure if she was the pundit commentator or the commentator. I'm not 100% sure, but she was constantly raving about him, and I was like, I'm not really fully seeing it, what she's talking about, if I'm honest.
Me neither.
I'd probably maybe give a 6.5, but yeah, I mean, looking at the stats, 40 out of 45 passes is in that position very good. You can see very much active, expected assists, expected goals, 4 shots, 3 of them on target. Realistically, should have scored. He certainly could have scored. 2 out of 5 dribbles, tried a lot, didn't always come off. Won a tackle, at least half of his ground duels. It's pretty decent. I'd say 6.5. Would you go along with my 6.5, or are you adamant on your 6, bro? Oh, sorry. Bertram is not here. Bertram, going to the bathroom. Yeah, no worries. I'll just, overrule Bertram. If you go to the bathroom, you leave, you lose. Is that the expression? No, it isn't. But I'll give him 6.5. I'll give him 6.5. And we move on to Pedro Neto, maybe? Why not? Let's get Pedro Neto on the way. Played the first half, played pretty well, started the game quite strongly. Obviously had that shot saved quite early in the game, which was a decent save from the keeper, to be fair. Inadvertently assisted the goal by Guiu. Lucky also that it was given as an own goal because, not given as an own goal because then it's probably Guiu's assist, I guess. It's tough to say. But yeah, obviously Pedro Neto, the only reason he played today, I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but he got a 5th yellow card against Spurs on the weekend and therefore is suspended against Brentford on Sunday. Everybody is of the opinion because Neto started at Spurs, had Neto not gotten himself suspended for Sunday, it would have been Madueke. They travelled tonight. Well, Neto would have stayed at home. But so it was Neto. You wouldn't bring him if you don't start him. So as much as I understood people being a bit concerned, it made, like, if you're going to make him fly all the way to Almaty, you better start him. It's probably more dangerous to get injured on the bench just because by being cold than to actually play the game. But yeah, I thought he was decent. Was aggressive. Got an assist. Nearly scored. 25 out of 27 passes. 2 out of 2 shots. 2 out of 3 dribbles. 1 out of 3 crosses at least. 2 out of 2 long balls. Yeah, I'd probably give him like a 7 for that half he played. Would you at all go along with that, Badger? By the way, I did slightly overrule you and give Carney a 6.5.
Just fair enough. I think on Neto, probably I just give him an 8. To be honest, I think he was the best player today. And I think this
okay.
I think he was very, very good. I think he was dangerous every time he got on the ball. I think just he looked a couple of levels above everyone else, to be honest with you. I think he got an assist, got that chance as well set up by Josh, and I just think in general looked a level above. Probably why he got taken off as well. I think our commentator said he's still sitting in the bathtub in the changing room, which I can't blame him. Nice hot bath after those conditions is fair enough.
Are we sure they have bathtubs or hot water in their changing room?
If they have a changing room in that part of Kazakhstan, to be honest. But I think, yeah.
For me, this is even weirder because not long ago, I think it was the October international break, Austria played Kazakhstan away in this very stadium. So I actually watched 2 games in this stadium in the space of a month and a half. Like, who would have thought that, right?
I've watched Denmark lose a 2-goal lead and lose there last year. It was terrible.
Oh, that is terrible. We won. I think
Absolutely
we won 2-0.
terrible.
So, yeah, go us.
We should have won 2-0 as well, yeah.
Yeah, a bit weird. Like, the whole Renato celebration, he posted it. João Felix commented, "Didn't you learn numbers in school?" And then Romeo Lavia replied, "That's 21." Sad emoji. That makes me think it's about Chilwell again. But yeah, I'd stick to a 7 for Neto. Not because I disagree with what you said, that he was levels above, but he factually is levels above. So that's why it's like, Neto is so far superior to everybody that was on the pitch here. He should stand out that way. That's why I'm not going to go too high for this, if that makes sense. But I know what you mean. But I guess if we meet in the middle at the 7.5, it's not too far off. We move over to Tyreek George, man. Thoughts on him?
I think with George, this is your typical Tyreek George performance. There's definitely a player there. I think the reason he might not get played, I think he plays, he plays a fair bit, right? You think that as well? He plays a fair bit. Yeah. I also just think he might believe he needs to do that extra bit, to get played. And I think one of the reasons he might not get as much play as he would like in, maybe Premier League or maybe, as we get further along is Maresca maybe wouldn't, trust him if he had a situation where he could either shoot or pass it, kind of like those Sterling situations that he would pass it. But I think that comes down to the fact that he wants to prove himself. I think him and Acheampong are probably the 2 of these, academy boys that have the highest potential. I think there's, definitely a very good player there. And for these type of games, he's doing exactly what I want him to do. I think, was it Ava before that said he kind of looks selfish? I think, in a way when we're, 3-0 up, I think he was, fair enough before, we went up when the game was still tied. I think that's kind of what we want to see him doing. And I think there's definitely a good player there. I think he has some flair. I just hope that for him that maybe next week against Shamrock he will get that goal, because I think he will look better when he gets it. I think for the game today I'd probably give him a 6.5, somewhere around that area. I think he didn't really do much. I think he tried too hard, but the man wants to score, which I can't blame him for. I think it's fair enough. So to be honest, for the game today I'd probably give him we want to give him a 6.5. I think there's a player there, and I hope maybe he gets a loan after this season and is really, able to prove himself somewhere.
I agree. I'd probably go with 6.5 as well. We had 4 shots like Carney did, also 3 on target like Carney did. 40 out of 44 passes, can't complain. 2 out of 3 dribbles is pretty good going as well. These stats look almost identical to Neto, which is kind of weird. 2 out of 3 tackles, 6 out of 12 ground duels is good. Especially, again, can't forget he's 18. The only thing I'm like, the whole Shamrock Rovers thing, if Mudryk wasn't ill, Tyreek George doesn't start today, realistically. So if Mudryk is back fit next week, George probably doesn't start even. So make of that what you will. Also, I'm not 100% sure if, obviously, we know Mudryk was ill because he also wasn't training before this game. For example, Nkunku was training but then didn't travel. But obviously, with the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, is it smart for a Ukrainian person to travel to Kazakhstan at the moment? Maybe that also played a role why Mudryk wasn't involved, but obviously we still kind of know that he's ill. So, yeah, there you go. But as for George, 6.5, I agree with that. Let's see if he gets another start next week or not. And then we finish it off in terms of our starters. Marc Guiu officially with a brace. Mainly 1 goal, I will say. But that 1 goal was a very good goal. Now, sure, terrible defending. Fairly poor goalkeeping as well. But it's a great goal. Also the second one, whether it's his or an own goal, he forced it. Great run into the box to get on the end of the cross. Something that I often would want to. There's 2 things I miss from Jackson. That run to arrive on those crosses and heading ability. Those are the two things that sometimes annoy me about Jackson. I guess in the last game, also constantly dribbling with his head down and running into players. That was a bit annoying, but that was a one-off against Spurs, I would say. I would give Guiu the 8 today because I thought as individual moment, that first goal was very good. He probably warrants a lesser rating than Neto, if we're being totally honest. But like I touched on earlier, Neto is just so much of a far superior player that I'm like, I expect more of Neto in these kind of games than I do of Marc Guiu. And again, he's only 18. I think we can't forget about that. He's a very young kid. Scored a goal. Yeah, kind of scored another. Now they're only giving it as one. UEFA supposedly gave it at his goal. Who knows, right? Passes, short strike, 11 out of 15, 2 out of 3 shots on target. Not much involved in terms of duels. I mean, I still stand by the fact that I think he's a better striker than Christopher Nkunku is. In terms of actually being a striker and playing alone up front, I would rather play Marc Guiu than Christopher Nkunku. I just think, honestly, obviously you're not here all the time, Bertram, but I'm telling you, every week when we take Jackson off and Nkunku comes on, I want to rip my hair out because every week we just make ourselves so much worse. And why are we doing this to ourselves every week, man? Don't get it. Thankfully, we're up most of the time. So by the time this change happens, so nothing much is affected. But yeah, what did you make of Tyreek George? I keep saying Tyreek George. Marc Guiu. What did you make of that first goal in particular? And would you go along with my 8 or will you tag it down? Which you can.
Very impressive first goal. I thought he was good today. I think an 8 is fair. I think he went in and did the job he needed to. As purely a striker, the movement you talked about for the second goal, I think is something we need to see from Jackson as well. I think he's improving on those runs into the box, but I just thought it was very impressive. I think for him to come in and score 2 goals that quickly and just close the game, I thought was impressive. I thought was needed. So I was happy to see that. I think an 8 is fair as well. I think he looked the level above as well. Just the whole run to just casually run past that guy. I thought it was Neto, to be honest, to start with. Just run past him casually, put it in. Fair enough. So I think an 8 is fair. That's what I'd give him. Shared man of the match. Maybe even edges it slightly because he played more than Neto and, isn't, per definition at that level.
Yep, and Big K mentioned it earlier. You mentioned it now again as well. I saw Big K, but I highlighted it from earlier. He says, Guiu is going to be a great striker for us one day. Do you agree with this? Again, he's only 18. The weird thing about him playing tonight, you're like, yeah, 18, doing so well in this game. You forget that he's already scored in the Champions League for Barcelona. And he also scored on his debut for Barcelona with his first touch after 20 seconds, which is weird because the one thing you could argue about him so far at Chelsea is that he's not particularly clinical, which sounds the opposite when he scores with his first ever touch in the Barcelona first team. So fair enough. In La Liga, anyway, that was. I like him. Again, he's only 18. What did he cost us? 6 million euros? So, I mean, I don't know if the squad development will be so that in 3 years we're like, oh yeah, remember Marc Guiu, who we signed a few years ago? He's quite good. Let's start him now or make him the main backup striker. I'm not sure if that's realistically going to happen. I think it's more likely he's going to end up getting sold for profit because he was brought in for so cheap, and then we can probably sell him for 20-25 million in a couple of years. So I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. But I really like him. I like his tenacity. I like how aggressive he is. I like how strong he is for being 18 years old. Like, not many players have that kind of, not many humans have that kind of physical build at 18. So do you think he could be a great striker for us, or do you think he could be a great striker, but not for us down the line?
I think he will definitely be a starting striker, but it probably will be for like Real Betis or something. I think he impressed me a lot today. Actually, I didn't think he had it in him. I think the first couple of games we saw him was very much this headless chicken running around, and it's fair enough. He's 18. I think a thing with modern football is the fact that you have these lofty expectations for these young players, but at 18, I'm 20 right now. He's 2 years younger than me, starting for Chelsea, so it's very, very impressive. I also just think a lot can happen, very, very quickly. I think it's important to remember. I just think he might need to start, for a team, maybe go on loan. I think the fact that we bought him for 6 million will probably end up meaning that we will sell him for profit. But you never know. Give him a year living abroad now, training with these guys, training with Enzo. Probably loan him out in the summer for a Spanish side or Portuguese side or something like that. Get some minutes, and we'll see how it turns out. I think for the game today, as Eric said here in the chat, won a lot of duels, which I thought was very impressive. If he will end up being a starting striker for us, I don't know. I think realistically, right now, you're either going to stick with Jackson or you're going to, buy that a big name center forward who is going to bang. But
yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
for
I think he
now,
could be like a Loic Remy for us in future, where he's like a very good backup striker to have. I think he could be that.
yeah.
But I think he's
Perhaps,
a bit too talented to be no more than that. So that's why I think eventually he will get sold and be, like you said, somebody else's starting striker. Maybe a Real Betis,
Probably,
maybe
yeah.
a Valencia, Villarreal, something. I mean, it could be in England. Like the tenacity, the physique that he has could very much be also in more physical places, not just in Spain, right? So maybe also Championship loan could consider that. Again, only 18 years old. Sure, by next season he will be 19. But yeah, there you go. Damn, you missed the match, Turbo. How's that happened? Did you not know we played early? Fair dues, to be fair. But we won 3-1, still perfect in the Conference League, so we move. Because as I really think Alone will be the best option. I really see him being a great striker one day. No, I agree. I just don't really think it's with us. But that's just unfortunate timing and that's the one negative, or one of the negatives that comes with the way we squad build. If all the players are so similar in age, well, you won't have like a natural progression in terms of, say you have a 28-year-old striker, then a 20-year-old. By the time the 28-year-old turns 31, the 20-year-old is ready to be the starter instead. But if your main striker is 22 and your backup is 18, then they're a bit too close in age for that natural progression to ever happen. But yeah, let's go through the subs that we made. Now, Acheampong made his debut coming off the bench at halftime, replacing Pedro Neto. I hadn't really known much about him. I'm not sure if half Ghanese, but he certainly has a heritage from Ghana, but his nationality-wise plays for England, or I'm not sure. I assume he's in the youth setup of England, but certainly here in football, his nationality says England. But yeah, he did all right. 11 out of 16 passes. Yeah, 1 out of 2 dribbles, 1 out of 2 tackles, 4 out of 6 ground duels. It's good going. Certainly put a shift in. Nothing special, but because he played a full half, he does have to get a rating. Would you just give him a 6? Do you give him a 6.5 because it was his debut, even though he didn't do anything particularly stand out? Or do you disagree? Did you see anything more stand out than maybe I noticed?
To be honest, I didn't really think he was that good, but just me saying that, this is a guy, he's playing his debut for Chelsea in those conditions, so I can't level anything against him. I thought he didn't look that good, at least. He didn't do it. When I say that, he didn't do anything that kind of stood out to me. So I'd probably give him, as Eric said, probably a 5.5, just below. And I don't want to be harsh because probably a very, very talented player. No doubt has worked very hard for this, and maybe perhaps was nervous before the game and stuff like this. I just think of the academy boys that came on today, he didn't really do anything for me today, to be honest. There's no fault of his own, it's just how it is. Yeah. So I'd probably give him 5.5.
Fair enough. I think let's push it up to a 6 purely because it was a debut and because, we're kind of split on the 0.5 again. Let me look at the poll about, what's his face, Dewsbury-Hall's rating. Now, I need a few more votes from you guys, so please place your vote in the poll for Dewsbury-Hall's rating between 6 and 6.5. So far, the 6 is winning by 56%. So, place your votes. We'll finish that at the end. As for the others, I'm not really sure if any of them as such warrant a rating. Now, Harvey Vale did play over 20 minutes. He came on in the 67th for Carney and Neto. 7 out of 7 passes, to be fair, but nothing else. So I think we're getting into the NA territory now because, you played 7 passes and did nothing else in 23 minutes, then I'd rather not give you a rating because otherwise it's going to be a fairly low rating. Honestly, I never would have thought that Harvey Vale will play for the Chelsea first team again, if I'm being totally honest. So I guess make of that what you will. Yeah, no worries about him. If you're still here, do you agree? Did you also not see that one coming again? That Harvey Vale would play for the first team once more? Surprised is what I would say. But then again, I don't mind it. He's been struggling with the under-21s, under-23s at times after not particularly successful loan moves. A failed, nearly forced out move by Chelsea in the summer, where he was, on the way to go to Saudi Arabia, but seemingly himself then said no. Thoughts, Bertram? If you're here, you said you're here, but your mic is off, so I'm not sure. There you go.
No, I actually thought he looked quite, fair enough when he came on, to be honest. I think he, as you touched upon as well, he's been a part of the setup for a long time. I remember him playing under Tuchel as well. I thought
last time he played for the first team was March 2022, so 2.5 years ago. more than
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And in that terrible yellow kit, I
Yeah.
thought he looked quite, he looked pretty good when he came out. I think it's important to understate the fact that he's been on loan. He's played a whole season of men's football as well. I thought he looked good. He will probably not have a career with us, if we're honest. Which is fair enough. A lot of players don't. Most players don't. Um, Happy to see him get some minutes as well. I think he seems like a sound guy, to be honest with us, or to be honest with me. He seems like someone who loves Chelsea, and fair enough. She just gets some minutes. So I probably couldn't give him a rating if I'm honest. I just think he did, he did the job, and I think there's definitely a place for him for these Conference League games. If I'm honest, I think for today probably no rating, but I'm happy to see him again. I did in a way forget where he was, so just seeing him again, making sure he's all right is pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. Fair dues. Next one was Shemira Mweka, who came on for Marc Guiu in the game. And he was the second youngest ever Chelsea player to make his debut in a European competition, only beaten by Dominic Solanke, which is ironic because Dominic Solanke scored 4 Spurs against us just 4 days ago. So brilliant. But yeah, the second youngest European debutant. I think this is a weird stat. Where does he rank in full stop debutants? Like if we include League Cup, Champions League, Premier League, whatever. Because Conference League, you cannot put that on a level with the Champions League. Like this is more like a really easy FA Cup game. So not the fairest thing. But hey, 17 years old, making his debut for Chelsea. Fair dues. He gets an NA as well, I would say. He didn't even have a pass. He had 6 touches, but no pass. So there you go.
No, he did have that one he had like the chop that past the guy. I thought actually he looked quite well, or quite good.
He did. He also won 3 out of 2 out of 3 ground duels. He had a tackle. He just didn't play a pass, apparently.
He did not play a pass though. But that one good chop was good for me. I thought man, he looked quite good, to be honest. But probably couldn't give him a rating if I didn't give one to Vale. But an interesting player, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the players that came on, Keanu Dyer, the last one to make his debut, as far as I know, in terms of the current, the ones that we don't know about already, as in Acheampong and Tyreek George, he's kind of like probably the most talented, the most likely to get in and around the squad. Again, looks quite small physically, so yeah. Not like that kind of in the way Maresca plays takes him kind of out of the more defensive positions for me. But hey, again, only 18. When did he turn 18? They don't even have his birthday. Oh, they do. 21st of November. So literally turned 18 like 2 weeks ago. So barely 18. So yeah, to be fair, according to Former, his main positions are central midfield and BM. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. He gets an NA as well, but shout out to him for making this debut. Hopefully, we get to see more of him very, very soon. Bertrand, we finish it off with a rating for the manager, Enzo Maresca. I would, in the grand scheme of things, give him a fairly high rating today because he left a lot of the first team squad at home. You could have made a case for 1 or 2 more. Could you have left Neto at home and just started Ampa or, I don't know, one of the other guys? Probably could have done. But, hey. Neto suspended for Sunday anyway. Why not travel? All the other players kind of made sense who played and who didn't to me. So no injuries. Gave 3 debuts today. Gave multiple first starts today. This is what I wanted the Conference League to be. Now, to be honest, I would have wanted this sooner in the competition. But hey, at least it came better late than never. I really wonder how it's going to go against Shamrock Rovers, because I think against Shamrock Rovers, even though we're now completely guaranteed to be in the round of 16, we needed 1 point more before this game, or none if all the teams behind us kind of lost games or whatever. I think against Shamrock Rovers, it's going to be more the usual Conference League team again, purely because of not the travel hasn't to be considered. But I think, yeah, one more can you want from a manager in a game like today? I'd probably say, I don't know, 7.5. I don't want to give him an 8 or a 9 for beating Astana. Do you know what I mean? But I still think he warrants a good rating for good squad management today. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd probably give him, minus 11 for the temperature, to be fair. Managing to stay on the touchline the whole game, I think is something to be commended with. I think he did, well. I think probably give him an 8, to be honest. If I think
give him an 8. Showed people in the chat said 8 as well. Give him an 8. Why not?
Being willing to play all these young players, having to convince Pedro Neto somehow to travel is impressive as well. Taking him off, I think If I could sit beforehand, on my couch, very warm and cozy, far away from the game, and dictate which players started, which players, when you would make subs and stuff. This is pretty much how I would have done it. I think the thing with Neto, realistically, would be like having probably Ampa start or something, and have drawn. Probably not, to be honest. I think just starting Neto, showing the willingness to go and win, made me happy. And I think as well with next week, I think managers always have this thing about showing respect for the competition and whatnot. I think we'll probably do that. I hope Acheampong has signed an extension at that point. I hope he starts. I hope Raksaki as well starts. I pretty much as close to the team we saw today next week I would like to see as well, because I think they didn't really do anything to be displaced, and I think they deserve to play in let's say a warmer climate than they did today.
That is true. There is Joe Cole said in the coverage that he is hearing whispers of an Nkunku injury. So let's see what's happening with that. He was training yesterday though, so I'm not sure what Joe Cole is hearing. But yeah, just to quickly mention these couple of quotes by Maresca after the game. He said it was a solid performance. We knew it was quite cold. Shock. You know how thermometer works. We tried to adapt quickly. The players did fantastically with the weather conditions, the long journey yesterday, and the pitch was not ideal for us. Overall, I'm very happy for the players. And then why did it go back to there? And then he also says, Maresca and young players, I was impressed by all of them. The ones who started, Tyreek, Sam, and Josh, they all did very good. So I'm very happy for them. Also, the ones that came on in the second half, I'm pleased for them. Yeah, what more can you want? At the end of the day, Chelsea got the job done. 5 games in the Conference League, 5 wins so far. Still, that Servette away game is kind of a bit of a stain on the shirt, isn't it? Because even if we win the whole thing, winning every game from now until the final, haters and rivals will say, but you lost that qualifier. So there you go. Ruined it a little bit. But yeah, I think it's about time we wrap this one up. Thank you very much, Bertrand, for joining me. I had a great time. So, ladies and gentlemen, follow me on Twitter.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, you're very welcome, bro. You're very welcome. Follow him on Twitter. Won it twice. My favorite handle. My link to Twitter is also down in the description. Obviously, or X, but who really calls it X, man? Other than weird Americans. So I must stick to Twitter for a while. Maybe that just makes me a boomer. I don't know. But I'm gonna call it Twitter anyway. Yeah, the worst is people say X, formerly Twitter. I'm like, fuck off. Just call it Twitter, man. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, hit the like button. That would help me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, one thing I forgot about: the rating for Dewsbury-Hall. To 6-1, so we shall give him a 6. I won't bring it up on screen again now, but if you're listening, you know he's getting a 6. So there you go. But yeah, like I say, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button if you haven't done that just yet. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you again. Well, the latest on Sunday. If I have time beforehand, I'll see you beforehand. Otherwise, I'll see you on Sunday for the post-match reaction after Chelsea versus Brentford. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you very much for being here. But yeah, upwards and onwards, up to Chelsea, and we'll see you next time.